And thank you everyone for being here tonight at tonight's candidate forum, Growing a Diverse Long Island. 4 years ago, our Growing a Diverse Long Island initiative, a candidate forum to address the issues that matter most to our diverse communities, was the first of its kind on Long Island, and the first to offer simultaneous Spanish-English interpretation. Since then, we have held 7 other forums, from U.S. Congresspeople to senators to school board candidates. This will be our 8th forum and our 2nd Suffolk County candidate forum.
And we're very pleased to have both Democratic and Republican candidates for the office joining us tonight. They both deserve a round of applause for taking the time out of their busy schedule to be here with us this evening.
But if you're here tonight, hopefully you already know that local elections are even more important. The person that wins this race controls a multi-billion-dollar budget, right, that has control over stuff like infrastructure, economic development, and human rights policies in our county. So it has a profound impact on our lives, in a lot of ways much more so than the big elections.
This forum shows us what democracy really looks like. Tonight we are honored to be joined by a panel including representatives of over 20 different community organizations. These community representatives working with organizations prepare and submitted questions beforehand, and they will ask all these questions tonight. The questions cover the themes of economy, diversity, and social policy. Tonight's forum is entirely nonpartisan. Our host organizations are not endorsing any of the candidates. All questions are balanced, and the candidates have not seen the questions in advance.
It is a very important season. The pundits refer to the time between Labor Day and Election Day as the silly season. As someone who has run for public office, this is my 3rd time, I find nothing silly about it. I think this is very serious stuff that we talk about, and you are obviously here, so you think it's serious as well, and we really appreciate that.
It's a pleasure to be here. I want to thank the Long Island Civic Engagement Table for sponsoring tonight's forum and all the organizations that have come together to make this night possible.
The current state of the fiscal condition in Suffolk County is not good. Some would suggest it is hurtling off a cliff. They have been called out on that fact by the bond rating agencies, independent of any partisan candidate. They are nonpartisan, they protect their institutional investors, and they have issued their 4th consecutive bond down. They have been called out on it by the elected state comptroller, who has said in the last 4 years they're in some state of fiscal stress.
When I came into office as county executive, we were facing the worst fiscal crisis in this county's history. $500 million deficit, $200 million structural gap, and we immediately began to work coming together with the legislature. And by the way, we witnessed infighting between the executive branch and the legislative branch. We put that behind us. We worked together. We eliminated that deficit, we cut the structural gap, and we delivered 4 consecutive balanced budgets under the tax cap. But more than that, Suffolk County had earned, unfortunately, a national reputation for intolerance. And that was one of the major reasons why I ran for this office. I knew this was not the county that I grew up in, and it was not the county that we needed to be moving forward. And I've worked very hard to change that tone and change that perception of our great county.
Locally, in the past year, we do have a police department that is under investigation for targeting Latinos and other immigrants. We've seen hate crimes against those perceived to be undocumented, and our local state senator, Tom Croce, proposed a legislation to deny funding to the local police departments that do not honor ICE detentions. What are your thoughts on Senator Croce's No Sanctuary Cities legislation, Bill S-6032, known as New York CARES Act? How would you, as county executive, make Long Island a safer and more accepting climate for undocumented students, workers, and families?
I fundamentally believe that elected officials have an obligation to use rhetoric that works to pull people together, not to split them apart for political purposes, which we too often see. We were following the terrible tragedy with Marcelo Lucero. We were under investigation by the Justice Department. I came in, we sat down with the Justice Department and said, this is not what Suffolk County represents, and we sat down and we resolved that with the Justice. We settled that issue. with respect to Senator Croce. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Senator Croce. We worked together on a number of things. I salute him for his service to our country, and I'd be happy to sit down to discuss that with him. But always my major concern with that is doing something on a local level that is going to have terrible impacts on people.
And how you say things should not demonstrate intolerance or divisiveness. At the same time, we can disagree on the heart of the issue, and we do. I support Senator Croce's legislation. I held a press conference Sunday to talk about that. In my opinion, we have a gang problem here in Suffolk County, and nobody understands that better than the people who live in these communities. There is a gang problem, there is a violent gun problem, and there is a heroin problem. The Suffolk County District Attorney on the cover of Newsday says that these problems are directly attributable to the gangs. I think it is wrong to release violent criminals back into the community and not hold them for deportation.
We are working to build trusting relationships between the police and immigrant communities, which is fundamental to building community safety. If Latina abuse or crime victims do not feel safe working with the police and remain silent for fear of deportation and separation from their families, the safety of our neighborhood is at risk. What initiatives would you take on to strengthen trust between police and immigrant community members, especially to help survivors of domestic violence and other crime victims?
Because we have a budget crisis, we don't have the ability to keep in place the Domestic Violence Task Force. We hold a Domestic Violence Awareness Day, and we put a hashtag campaign out about wearing purple at the same time that we are defunding the agencies that provide the most important services to victims of domestic violence. And it all comes back to the fact that we can't pay our bills.
Community policing is absolutely vital. That trust between community and the police department that is there to represent and serve them is very important. And also very important to work hard, which we have done successfully now and are doing more, to make sure the police department is representative of the community that it serves. And we've made some great progress in that area as well.
Across the country, people in my community have been crying out that Black Lives Matter because far too many black and brown youth and people of all ages are subjected to illegal, unsafe, and often violent encounters with the police. As the unfortunate case with Officer Sergeant Green shows, we need real police accountability here in Suffolk County as well. Are you committed to rebuilding trust in policing, particularly with communities of color? And what is your position on a strong, independent civilian oversight mechanism for Suffolk County, as the President's task force strongly suggests?
We're actually working, participating with the task force. We have a representative from my office who's a former U.S. Attorney, Assistant Deputy County Executive for Public Safety, Tim Sini, who's on a conference call yesterday with the White House. When I came into office, I appointed the first person of color, first woman Deputy Commissioner of the Suffolk County Police Department, whose career has been spent not only as a prosecutor, but 10 years working in the streets, working with former gang members, working to pull people who have been in the system back into the community, back into society. And we've introduced a number of programs with the Deputy Commissioner and the Police Department to do those things.
I would absolutely be committed to making sure that Black Lives Matter and that the President's recommendation of civilian oversight over the department would take place here in Suffolk County. And I would say this as well. Just like we talked about when we talked about other issues regarding diversity, you have to make the police department look more like the community that it's representing, or we're going to continue to have these problems.
El año pasado las comunidades inmigrantes de Long Island sentimos un alivio muy grande cuando el actual ejecutivo Bellone firmó un decreto para parar cierta colaboración entre el Departamento de Probatoria y la Policía de ICE, a menos que haya una orden de la Corte. Pero después del cambio de comunidades seguras al nuevo programa federal de PEP, hemos visto mucha actividad de ICE y este año nuestro senador estatal Croce recientemente presentó un proyecto de ley que amenaza y penaliza a las localidades, como Suffolk, que estén tomando estas medidas para proteger a nuestras familias de la deportación innecesaria e inhumana.
I think it's important we have dialogue like this And so from where I come from, in my background and my training, I am trained to disagree without being disagreeable. I am trained to point out two sides to an issue and let people make a decision. At the end of the day, whatever decision they make, it's their decision, and you all are going to have a decision to make on November 3rd. We might disagree on an issue. I support Senator Croce's bill. I think we have a real gang problem here in Suffolk County. I think the gangs are preying on these communities, and it needs to stop. And so I think when a violent gang member is arrested and placed in a Suffolk County jail, they should not be released back into the community.
I would be concerned about unintended consequences. We just got lifted from a mandate that we worked very hard to build a new jail in Suffolk County that would have cost taxpayers $300 million over 20 years. And the notion that we were going to put people in jail and have to build that new facility instead of investing in things like education and childcare and early education and things that are going to help our communities, that to me seems unconscionable.
I hope now that you've gotten to know me, you see that I do present a real candidacy and a real choice. No matter how you choose on November 3rd, you as the voters deserve a choice. You deserve somebody who will go up there and articulate what they think the issues are. And where we disagree, give you, the voters, a choice. So I am here to tell you I do exist, I am alive, and I am Mr. Bellone's opponent, and I look forward to the election on November 3rd.
One of the most important things in our county, one of the things that provides the greatest strength in our county is our diversity. We are a diverse county. We are growing more diverse, and that is a strength, and that is something that I have tried to highlight. I have worked to bring people together. I've worked to solve problems, but I've worked to highlight the fact that we're all in this together. And as we all do better, as each individual in every community does better, we all do better in this county.
It was a great debate. I thought I had the opportunity to point out the distinctions between myself and the county executive. And people can do it in a way that is not toxic. And I hope that the folks in the audience got that. We were saying different things. We weren't always saying the same things. And I'm focusing on the current mess that the county is in, and he is focusing on the future. And I don't think you can ever get to the future unless you fix the mess that you have. And so I hope people got that distinction.
Again, it was a civil debate, which is something we need more of in this country. We need to not be yelling at one another. We need to be talking to one another and having a discourse that helps us to move forward and solve problems. This shouldn't be about political partisanship and rhetoric. These are real people and real issues that are affecting lives. And I think tonight you saw a real discussion that was very civil, very courteous, and I think that's important. And I think it says a lot about the organizations that came together to make this debate possible.